Thank you for watching Why I Killed You TV. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this particular video and this particular YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Those of you who are not familiar with the case, I'm going to get you up to speed. He was a very quiet man. He just vanished. And they found his body on his own farm in pieces inside of a slurry tank. It's a murder mystery. And I am starting to think that maybe it is turned into a cold case file. Michael Gaine, he was only 53 years old. Very peaceful man, very quiet man, pretty much kept to himself. He was married. His wife, his name is Janice. He lived on a farm in Clogged East, just outside of Kenmare, County Kerry in Ireland. He wasn't a troublemaker. Like I said, he was very quiet. He loved his animals. He loved his family. He loved his wife. His neighbors loved him. He was well respected in the community. But on March the 20th, 2025, that quiet life came to a terrible and horrific halt. Very sad. Michael was last seen at 9:45 a.m. on March the 20th, 2025, buying phone credit in his town. He returned to his farm shortly thereafter. This is what they're claiming. And that was the last time that he was ever seen buying that phone credit. Now, there was a situation where he was supposed to be meeting some friends. So I'm not really sure when did he buy the phone credit first or did he meet the friends first? I'm not really sure what order that happened. He was reported missing on March the 21st, 2025. At first, people thought that he had gone off on his own, maybe some kind of freak accident. But when his animals were found alone and his car was still parked right outside his farm, something felt very wrong. Police began to search his farm. It didn't take long before they believed that something was terribly wrong, especially his wife Janice got on social media and told everybody that this was very uncharacteristic of him. The home and the barn were unusually clean, too clean. Investigators later say that they believe that disinfectant was used to clean up the crime scene, possibly destroying some DNA evidence. Somebody had tried to erase what had happened at that farm. Weeks later, in mid-May 2025, the Gardaí made a shocking discovery. Like I said, they found human remains in the slurry tank on the farm. The remains were cut up into small pieces, making it very clear that this was not an accident or a suicide. It was a murder, and it was brutal. So the slurry tank that they found him in, that tank had already been checked. And I'm not really sure what happened with the Gardaí. Did they slip up and, did they not check the tank thoroughly? But when they rechecked that tank the second time, the remains of Mr. Gaine was in that slurry tank. Actually, it was in the slurry tank spreader. And what happened that when they were spreading slurry manure on the farmland, the spreader got clogged up, and it was the nephew and some of the workers that noticed that there was some body parts that were clogging up the slurry spreader. So that's what happened. That's what I'm saying. This case is very, very, it's like a horror movie, to tell you the truth. At first, some believed that a chainsaw was used to dismember Mr. Gaine's body, but investigators went on to say that it was not. It was something that was like a sword-like long object, a long blade that killed Mr. Gaine, because the cuts were so concise. When you use a chainsaw, it's kind of jagged, but the cuts were very concise, and it was obvious a chainsaw was not used. That added a chilling twist to this particular case. Whoever did this might have bought some special weapons onto the farm. I've always believed that whoever did this to Mr. Gaine, first of all, if they did this on the farm, and this is what everybody is thinking, this is what the Gardaí is thinking, that he was actually killed on that farm, that if this was done on that farm, that person had access to that farm, had to have access. I don't know if it was a prior worker or whoever killed Mr. Gaine had a relationship with him and his family and had access to that particular farm. This is my personal opinion. Take it or leave it. So this is when it gets sort of kind of weird. One man came forward claiming that he had seen strange weapons on the property before. He sketched them out for the Gardaí. The drawing showed long sword-like blades, possibly the same kind that was used in the murder. But here's when it gets really strange. This man was never arrested. Nobody knows if the weapons that he claimed that he found were actually on that farm. And so this whole story regarding this man sketching these weapons just disappeared. He was never arrested. He was never named or anything like that. That is the weird part of this entire case. How can you let somebody like this go? Somebody who was able to sketch out some weapons on that particular farm. So their only suspect has been Michael Kelly. Michael Kelly is a U.S. soldier. He is actually from Maine. He has actually lived in Ireland for 7 years, but I think that he had a relationship and a friendship with Michael Gaine for the last 3 years. He actually worked for Michael Gaine on Michael Gaine's farm. Not long after the remains were found, the Gardaí actually arrested Michael Kelly. They arrested him. However, they could not keep him because they did not have enough evidence. Michael Kelly claimed that he last saw Michael Gaine around 10 a.m. on March the 20th when Michael was leaving to meet a man about a tractor. Kelly said he didn't go with him. He stayed behind to make coffee, and he never saw Michael Gaine again. He was questioned and then released without charge. He has never been rearrested again, and he says he has nothing to do with Michael Gaine's death. Michael Gaine, his body was finally released to his loved ones. He had a quiet funeral service in County Kerry, Ireland. After all the rumors and the horror stories, his family and friends were at least able to lay him to rest. But justice, that hasn't come as of yet. This is why I'm thinking, is this turning into a cold case file? Another cold case file for the Gardaí. They have a lot of cold cases on their hands. By July 2025, there had been no major updates, no new arrests, no trials, very little media coverage concerning the murder case. The major Irish news outlets like the Irish Times, the Mirror, and Sunday World have gone silent. Some believe that the Gardaí press office stopped releasing information. Others think that the case has been completely stalled. Now, to add insult to injury, the Gardaí, and this is another reason why this case probably isn't solved, the Gardaí, in the midst of investigating this murder, decided to do some type of peer review, pretty much trying to figure out what they did wrong and what they can do right from this point forward. And this pretty much, in my opinion, is stalling out this case even more. Investigators confirmed that they believe a crime took place on the farm. I mean, duh. The man is dead. He's been cut up in pieces. But they also believe that the scene was cleaned up, possibly with bleach and disinfected, destroying critical information. The lack of DNA and clues could explain why there has been no arrest. But it also raises another question. Did somebody help the killer cover their tracks? That's another thing. So this story gets really confusing because it's kind of hard to figure out who was the last person or people to see Michael Gaine. Was it Michael Kelly? Because Michael Kelly alluded to the fact that Michael Gaine was going out to meet somebody about a tractor. And so if that is the case, then he is the last one that saw him. And then when does the store, him being in the convenience store, buying the phone credit, when does that come into play? And if that's the case, were they the last people at that convenience store? Were they the last people to see Michael Gaine? Then there's another story, and this has been confirmed, that he did meet some friends out in the community, but all of those friends have been cleared. They are not suspects, and his wife Janice is not a suspect either. So it's a little bit of confusion as to who last saw Michael Gaine. And how did Michael Gaine's car get back to his farm? Now, Michael Gaine did not live on his farm. He lived somewhere else. But Michael Kelly lived on the farm. Michael Kelly was actually Michael Gaine's handyman. So he lived on the farm and did odds and ends for Michael Gaine. So Michael Kelly is currently still living in Ireland, possibly in a flat provided by the state. Rumors claim that he was charging $10 for selfies for the media. He made a comment jokingly, I'm thinking it was a joke, about charging $10 for selfies, but evidently the people out in Ireland did not find that joke very funny. So Michael Kelly has applied for Irish citizenship, even though he might have been living in Ireland without legal papers. He also has reported the Gardaí to the ombudsman because he felt that during the investigation and during the interview that he was treated unfairly. Whoever killed Michael Gaine has gone to great lengths to hide the crime. This person is still out there. Whether they're still in Ireland or not, nobody really knows, but somebody planned this out, they executed it, they cleaned things up, and they vanished. The thing is, why everybody is looking at Michael Kelly, who's the U.S., he's also a Marine. The thing is, the reason why they're looking at him, one of the reasons, is because he admitted that he has worked with meat before. He wasn't a meat butcher, but he has worked with meat before. He did it for 10 years as seasonal work when he was back in the United States when he was out of the military. So the Gardaí actually traveled to Maine in the United States to talk to Michael Kelly's ex to figure out what kind of man Michael Kelly was. I don't think they got very much information from the ex, and pretty much I think the trip was a waste of time. I don't think they got a whole lot of information out of that particular trip. Michael Gaine, he was a quiet man, but his death is leaving a loud silence, one that stretches from Kerry, Ireland to Maine, and back again.
You're gonna die. I don't want to do this.